wanawake wa eneo la Kasarani, karibu sana katika NTV, na pengine pia kuna wenzangu ambao wako tayari kuzungumza nanyi. Pengine nipate tu maoni yenu. Leo kuna karibu sana
koti kuhakikisha ya kwamba watu wetu wa Embakasi East constituency pamoja na Kasarani constituency hawadhulumiwi. Juzi kulikuwa na uamuzi kutoka mahakama kwa hakimu ya kwamba shamba ilikuwa la Kirima na walipewa notice kutoka by 31st of December. Lakini ningependa kuhakikishia watu wetu ya kwamba mwenye shamba amejitokeza kutoka Italy, anaitwa Bernardo De Masi ambaye ni mtoto wa Domenico De Masi. Na siku ya leo tumekuja hapa kotini kuhakikisha kwamba watu wetu hawezi tolewa na Domenico apewe shamba lake through Bernardo. Apewe shamba lake, na hili shamba sio la familia ya Kirima jinsi ambavyo watu wanavyosema ama jinsi ambavyo koti ilivyosema. So siku ya leo tunahakikishia watu wetu wakule Krismasi njema pamoja na mwaka mpya, na mjue ya kwamba tuko hapa kama waheshimiwa wawili pamoja na wakili kuhakikisha kwamba tunawapigania na hii vita mtaishinda. Swali? For you to get involved in the purchase of land, then you must have the completion documents. So we want to know the completion documents that the Kirimas are in possession of, from the ID copies of Domenica to the passport-sized photos, to proof of payment, to the original title deed, because an indenture, by then it was called an indenture, because it has to be surrendered. So once we have that, then they can say that they bought this parcel of land. But otherwise, the Domenico's family was scared for their lives. They ran from Kenya back to Italy. We got them around near Lake Como in Italy when we were bringing them back here. So I'm very sure that this parcel of land belongs to Domenico's family. I just want to give an assurance to the great people of Embakasi East and the great people of Kasarani constituency that we, as your members of parliament, we will protect your interest, we will fight for you. This war is far from over. And number one, as members of parliament, it is our right, inherent and inalienable right, to protect you not only religiously but also spiritedly. And because of that, we have found a new owner, the legitimate owner of the said Kirima land. And this parcel of land belonged to one Bernardo De Masi. And that's why we are here today, to ensure that Bernardo De Masi gets what is rightfully his. The Kirimas are people who fraudulently took this said parcel of land from the Domenico's family, who is being represented by one Bernardo De Masi. We want the court to determine who is the rightful owner of the said parcel of land.
And I mentioned that it is very important, especially in a case where people are going to lose their homes and their properties. We establish first of all who the rightful owner of that land is. Because if you look at the history, because the evidence that we'll present, we have an old title coming from 1904, I believe. 1904. There is no evidence of that land being transferred to the Kirimas. It is the 99-year leasehold of that particular piece of land. And curiously, the Kirimas presented a title deed that where the lease starts in 2003, at which point the old title expires. There is no evidence of any transfer of that piece of land to the Kirimas, and that is why it's very important. Remember, there are many lives being affected by this particular case. It would be very sad for those particular people to negotiate with the Kirimas, and thereafter a new owner again coming to claim the same piece of land, and we start again from scratch. And that is why we are here today, so that we can ask the court at the end of this process, or rather at the beginning of this process, to give us stay orders so that we can establish who is the rightful owner of this piece of land, before we proceed with the evictions. And as has been rightly said, we are approaching the holy month of December. These people are not sleeping. These people have lived there for quite a number of years. And to them, being evicted after saving all this money to buy that property is something we cannot fathom. I am here to represent those people of Kasarani. And if they are going to negotiate, they must negotiate with the rightful owner. And that can only be determined by the Honorable Court. There's also a statement that was made by the then Lands Minister long ago, Honorable Orengo. And he stated that all land that was leased after 1908, I have to get the correct year, should revert back to the government. So we have again a third player here. We have to determine whether also this is government land. Because if it's government land, then they have to be able to be the ones who take care of the people who live in that particular area. And then lastly, what I want to say, the people of Kasarani, the people of Embakasi East, where Babu Wino represents, they need to feel protected by the same government that they pay taxes to. And as members of parliament, as their representatives, the only reason we are here is to ensure that they get a fair hearing. We have presented a case through the lawyers about the rightful owner, and what we want from the Honorable Court is to determine first who owns the land before we proceed to protect the interests of those owners. This is a plea to the Honorable Court. I want the court to understand the effect of those orders. And I want the judge to objectively look at the evidence we've presented today so that in terms of the lives that are affected today, to make a fair determination in the interests of justice